I was inspired to give this speech by the Tall Tales contest you're having next week. I cannot be here because I will be in Vegas and everybody's going, yeah. My cousin's getting married there. But if you've got any money you want me to put on a machine for you, just let me know. But when I heard about this Tall Tales contest, I thought, yes, I have to talk about my grandmother, who was 5'2". But she was the little old lady from Pasadena. When she was driving, she was in her 70s, she was driving out west with my uncle. And she had just nagged him about, hey, come on, you're going over the speed limit. And he slowed down. So then he got in the back seat and was napping, and she was driving. And she's in her 70s, you understand. And he's thinking, gosh, we're going kind of fast. But he didn't want to say anything. He said, my mother, I'm not saying a word. And all of a sudden he hears her go, oh my God, I'm going 95. Which she did obviously slow down from there. She was the kind of person that kind of enjoyed shocking people. She liked to make people laugh, but if she could kind of shake them up at the same time, she did that. Before she got married, she was born in 1895 in Missouri, in a small town in Missouri called Milan, Missouri, spelled exactly like Milan, Italy, but pronounced Milan. She owned stock in the Cardinals, the St. Louis Cardinals baseball team. However, they wanted to go private, and she refused. She was like, no, I bought this because I want to have it. So finally, Augie Bush wrote to my grandmother and said, if you sell us the stock back, we will provide tickets for your children and you and your grandchildren anytime they want to come to a St. Louis Cardinals game for free. So finally, with that letter, she decided to send the stock back, and they went private again. And every time we decided to go to a game, we went to Augie Bush's office, and he gave us free tickets, and we went in and had great seats. She was an incredible sports fan, constantly at games, constantly expressing her opinion. Now, this is a 5'2" woman, of course, about how the referee or the umpire was calling the game, about how the players were acting. She had no compunction about screaming, never used bad words, but had no compunction about telling them exactly how they should be acting. She had 7 children. She was widowed at the age of 54, went ahead and got jobs and worked, kept her family together. She inspired, when I think she was 60, I didn't do the math, but I think she was about 68 when my mother died. And she came to the funeral, and she stayed. And there were 5 of us, children. I was the oldest girl, 14. And she just stayed, and she took care of my brother, who was 11 months old. Now, think about this. 68 years old, suddenly she's a parent again. And that's a lot of extra work. An 11-month-old child is a very, very hard thing to raise, and so she had other children, too. She did, and now she's not a perfect person, she did expect us to be very grateful. I was old enough to feel grateful. My 10-year-old sister always said, well, Mother didn't do it that way. Which, naturally, my grandmother was not too thrilled to hear. But we were excited, thrilled that we could all stay together and have someone take care of my little brother. And so we got to know grandmother really well. Now, grandmother was not so popular with all of her grandchildren because she had a way of comparing one family with another family. Now, she had 7 children of her own and something like 27 grandchildren. Since 2 of her sons became priests, this left a lot of large families. But she would go to someone's house for a few weeks, and she would say, well, your cousins in Kansas City, that's us, always make their beds. They always do the dishes. They never have to be told what to do. Well, this wasn't true, of course. And she would come to our house before my mother died, and she would say, well, your cousins out in California, they always do exactly what their parents say, and they always do this and do that and the other thing. And I'd think, wow, that's great. Never having a jealous bone in my body, it didn't bother me, but it did bother a lot of people. So people were constantly saying to us at family gatherings, whoa, you have grandma all the time. Whoa, that must be really hard. And we're like, really? What? No. Actually, it was so much calmer. She was so much calmer than our mother. It was just, even though she had a certain way about her, it was a lot easier to deal with than mother, who was from Ireland and had an Irish temper and tended to throw things and express herself in that way. lots of slam dishes and slam doors and broken dishes. Grandmother had a fantastic way about her. When she was a young child, she had fallen into a fire, and the doctor said that she would never walk. Well, she walked. So when she was an old lady, but she didn't walk until she was 6, but when she was an old lady, she broke her hip, and the doctor said, oh, she'll never walk again. And she said, watch me. And she did. She passed away at the age of 84 on a vacation in Ireland. And I had always assumed, I had seen her just the summer before she left to go, that she knew she couldn't possibly have made that trip because she was having heart problems and she didn't really expect to come back. But she had a horror, an absolute horror of being a burden on people. And so I think that that was, you know, that was her way of not committing suicide, but her way of pushing herself to, so she didn't have to. She was finding it difficult to, she had a stroke and she was finding it difficult to shower by herself. And she said, this is not the way it's going to be. So she pushed herself to the extreme. Had a fabulous funeral. The bishop was the person who came and gave the eulogy. And my grandmother is a tall tale. Thank you very much.